Welcome to Friday's edition of Let's Do Lunch. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready for a virtual happy hour tonight. Guess that's the best we can do during these times. Today's show is, Fridays are usually about the business of music, and we'll certainly be touching on music topics, but today's show is on a very timely topic, and that is the future of location-based entertainment. And we have a terrific group. Ted Cohen from Tag Strategic will be our moderator. Then Brent Bushnell, who runs 2-Bit Circus, is on the panel. Matt Coleman, who is with Magnify, and Sean Ahearn, who is with Wisdome.LA. Please enjoy the panel, and remember to use the Q&A for your questions. And then the chat button, when you do chat, make sure to change your drop down to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your chats, and enjoy the show. I'll turn it over to the panel. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Ned. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Although Fridays seem like Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays now. But, ooh, I love it. Way to go, Brent. Well, we're here to talk about the history and the future of location-based entertainment. So I'm going to be uncommonly brief for those of you who know me. I view the history of location-based entertainment as skee-ball about 100 years ago, Pong about 50 years ago, which Brent knows something about, followed by Space Invaders about 40 years ago, Tron roughly 30 years ago, and now we have VR, location-based entertainment that's based on virtual worlds and augmented reality. So I'm going to throw it out to Sean Ahearn first. Why don't you talk a little bit about what Wisdome.LA is doing and how you're approaching VR, and then we'll jump over to Brent.
Yeah, great, thanks. For you who may not be familiar, Wisdome.LA is a VR 360 dome immersive cinema complex in downtown LA, 5 domes, various dimensions and sizes. We can host, 1,000, 1,500 people. Our first year was quite successful, and then we ran into this current situation, and we are currently shuttered down completely for the moment. But all is not lost. With the help of some amazing people on this panel here, we're all thinking of creative ideas within our industry of how to relaunch in a new way, a new format. I'll be touching on some of that here during the conversation, but currently shut down, awaiting orders from the city about how and when we might reopen. In the meantime, just kind of creatively strategizing all kinds of interesting ways we can readapt to the new environment.
Ted, you're muted.
Ted, muted.
How am I now?
There you go. Yep, you got it.
Sorry about that. I don't know why that did that. Brent, we first met almost 3 years ago in Palm Springs when you were talking about the concept of what this was all going to be, and lo and behold, you brought it to market. Tell us a little bit about how 2-Bit Circus is structured and experience so far.
Yeah, I run 2-Bit Circus. We opened what we call a micro amusement park in downtown Los Angeles almost 2 years ago. It's 40,000 square foot interactive entertainment complex. We've got a 100-seat interactive theater, a whole virtual reality arena, a carnival midway, a reimagined arcade, a full bar and restaurant, what we call story rooms, or sort of our version of escape rooms. It's a ton of fun and a place where we like to showcase all variety of different kinds of entertainment.
So talk specifically about some of the experiences that you have there. Since no one right now
there is over 20 hours of entertainment in there. It's a ton of different stuff. We really think of it as like a movie theater for interactive. And so, we've deployed a bunch of atoms and then have made it as easy as possible to change the bits. And so, one example is this 100-seat interactive theater. It's a game show theater, touchscreens at every table facing a big stage. And that can run, a 90s rocker game show, at night for adults, and then, a hands-on making inventor game show for kids, then 12 hours later. So we've really built it to be able to be dynamic and updatable. Our version of escape rooms we call story rooms. They're still multiplayer adventures you go into for 20, 30 minutes. We like to distance ourselves a little bit from escape rooms. These things are replayable. They're multi-role. They're very software driven, so that they can reset instantly. And then a whole bunch of other stuff, indie arcade games, and a Carnival Midway with sort of our tech version of classic Carnival games. A lot of different stuff.
So in the case of escape rooms, you can change the rooms up. I mean, because I've done like 4 or 5 of them. My son is really big into escape rooms, but the ones we've gone to, you do them one time. If you went back, you know what to do because you've been in that room. These can you can reconfigure even an experience so it's a little bit different.
Yep, the goal is obviously the holodeck, and what we've got, one of them is a spaceship, and so you're the captain, and Ned's the pilot, and Matt's the gunner, and then we're all working together to pilot this spaceship. But you could imagine, they got 10 seasons of content from the bridge of the Enterprise. Imagine all the different adventures you can go on, piloting a spaceship. So we've really, built it to be able to, embrace that.
So first I'll talk a little bit about your history and obviously the family history. Was this something that you've always had in mind in terms of?
It really evolved out of a lot of, 2-Bit's been around almost a decade, but we started doing, at first my co-founder and I just making interactive entertainment we could take to parties. People liked it, so we kept making more stuff, and pretty soon we were doing, all the entertainment for Amazon's holiday party and huge Intel conferences and the Super Bowl, and, did, bigger and bigger events. Started doing custom stuff. So we did, we helped launch VR for Samsung at the Olympics and South by Southwest and Davos and whatever. Got us really exposed to VR early. And then, after popping that stuff up for years, we said, gosh, there really isn't a place for this stuff to live in an ongoing way. And it was right as Macy's and Sears and Toys R Us were going away. So we said, let's build a venue, a place that stuff can live. And so we started on that and managed to get it open a couple of years ago.
And what have been you had expectations when you opened based on people interacting with it. What are some of the lessons you learned? What were you right on, and possibly what were you wrong? Where did you have to pivot?
Well, one of the things that's been really fascinating is, I think of VR and AR and escape rooms and immersive theater, all sort of living in the same soup where, the audience member now has more control over the experience, right? And there's not really there's not really a single term that captures all that, or rather there's 100 terms, right? Immersive entertainment, experiential, there's sort of this catch-all, but as a consumer, you sort of know what to do, to go to a movie. You know what to do to go to a restaurant, right? There's a whole set of protocols. You're gonna meet with the maitre d' and they're gonna show you the menu and take you to your seat, and you sort of have expectations as a consumer of what that looks like. For the vast majority of people, the concept of an escape room is very weird and different. I remember my now wife, on one of our early dates, I was like, hey, let's go do this escape room. And she was like, let me get this straight. You want to lock me in a room with your brothers and that's a normal thing? These are styles of entertainment that are not so, immediately familiar. And so one of the challenges we had when we opened was nobody knows what a micro amusement park is. How do you visit that, right? Are you buying a ticket at the door? Should I make a reservation? How do I even do this thing? So one of our early, things we had to navigate was how do we just educate people on what it even is? And so, it took, and we wondered, do we advertise an attraction inside the place, or are we advertising all of 2-Bit Circus? And it took a long time, evolution to figure out what was the right way to do that.
Right. I first saw VR in '94 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at a place called Cybersmith. They had a Jaron Lanier VR installation that was running Don Bluth's Space Ace, and the helmet was like a mini Darth Vader helmet, and the frame rate wasn't that good. And the woman who ran the place, whose name I won't say because people may know her, it broke one day and she took it apart. She never got it back together. But it
I mean,
was,
imagine
it was intriguing. What?
Well, I was just going to say, you know, the VR, you know, this is the second coming, right? You know, it had
Right.
happened in the 90s, but
Right.
everything was hard then, right? The hardware was still, you know, super early and fragile, right? Some of them, you had a whole CRT monitor on your face.
Right.
You know, content creation was expensive. Unity and Unreal didn't exist. All that was super challenging. And now it's really gotten so much easier that, you know, we've seen this beautiful, you know, Cambrian explosion of options.
So either Matt or Sean and then Brent jump back in. What are the current friction points that are keeping consumer VR, not forget LBE for a minute, but just if somebody was going to put a Valve Index or an Oculus in their home or buy a Quest, what seems to be the hesitation? Is it pricing? Is it, you know, fear of technology?
I've got some interesting news this morning. I went on to the Oculus website just to see if I could buy one, and everything's completely out of stock.
Right.
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe I should test the industry out just to see who else is for sale. I could actually buy all the other brands. You know, the Magic Leap was available, HoloLens is available. Obviously, they're more in the $2,000 or $3,000 range. But even Lenovo was selling the Rift. HTC only had their high-end $800 system available. Everything else was out of stock. So it looks like the home market, I think that's one of the polls coming up, Ted, isn't it? About what you own and what you're doing at home. It'd be interesting to hear from the participants if they are getting out their headsets a lot more. I assume they are, with the streaming going through the roof at the moment. Netflix is even more powerful on the stock market this week against Disney, which is unbelievable.
Right.
Things are changing.
Sean, do you think, or anybody, do you think Magic Leap has hurt or helped the evolution of?
Very interesting. We've just started engaging with Magic Leap to see how we might be able to produce dome-based shows using Magic Leap and some live spatial audio and mixing technology. I frankly am just now being, I don't want to say forced, but being encouraged to learn more about what they do. It's just this legendary name, Magic Leap. They raised a lot of money. Something's happening. It's mysterious. And now I'm actually in conversations with them to see how Magic Leap will apply to the dome-based experience, being that we have multiple venues, multiple experiences. Apparently, Magic Leap is actually well positioned to help us create some kind of new limited edition dome experiences, because on a non-technical front, we may all be facing this limitation of crowds and crowd sizes for the foreseeable future. So I think the problem with the VR and the gear was that it was low pass-through rate. Now that actually may become an advantage, where you can put 10, 12, 14, 20 people through at a time, having experiences. So what I thought was once the limitation in this mass market, like Brent and I and Matt, we're trying to fill venues with as many people as possible. In this new paradigm, it might be the quality of the person, the price point level, and the type of experience they're going to have in sort of a pulsed crowd format. So I could see that aiding VR and headsets and interactive gaming and all those things. So funny, out of this pandemic mess, there actually may be an evolution of VR that was sort of unexpected.
Brent, how do you connect with people right now? I mean, we have this sort of pause where people are looking at things. I mean, you know, the explosion with Zoom, the explosion in the music space with things like Stage It, where people are saying, oh, wow, you can stream live music. Well,
yeah, you know,
Evan's been around since 2012. He's now experiencing he's had a bigger month than he had in the previous 8 years. So there is a moment when people have a lot of time on their hands to experiment. What's outreach right now from the VR world to get people more interested?
Yeah, you know, we, you know, have used this time to push some of the content that we've always wanted to do, but you know, never had the time to work on. The last couple of weeks, we've been testing an interactive play from home game show. It's not VR, but you know, it's basically a panelist and or a couple of panelists and a host, but then everybody else is playing, you know, a game show along with them, and it's really an interactive show. So that the content that's coming from the audience is informing what the host and the panelists are seeing. And it's been pretty hilarious. You know, it's still early. We've been working on the tech and getting a lot of bugs out, but we ran another test a couple nights ago, and we're going to keep doing that. It's really an extension of that interactive game show we have inside our park. You know, so we're just looking for ways for people to play when they're not at our place.
So, do you do any type of exit polling at all? From
We do.
And again, what has been some of the unexpected feedback that you've gotten?
You know, a big focus for us was creating repeat visitation. You know, particularly in location-based entertainment, I really think of it in two buckets, right? You know, there's tourist stuff and there's local stuff. And tourist stuff works in cities that have vibrant tourist audiences. So, right. You know, 5 cities in America. And we really wanted to make sure we could crack the locals thing, because then there's literally 500 cities. And so we really focused on repeat visitation, you know, making sure that we could have more content than you can do your first visit, that the content changes by the time you come back, really make it so that it's a place you want to come back to. And so that was, you know, it was surprising to see that in exit polls, you know, that people were coming 2, 5, 10 times. So that was interesting. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it was a surprise to see, you know, how, you know, the amount of education we needed to do around what it's like to visit the place, you know, solving some of that. And then just from a business standpoint, you know, we have both a corporate audience and a, you know, general public audience. And it was really wild for me to see just how much in competition your marketing team is with your events team. You know, they're sort of selling the same scarce resource. And so the, right. You know, the worst case is your marketing team has marketed, you know, about the amazing thing you're going to do on Tuesday, and all of a sudden, you know, Intel wants to pay you to take the place over, you know, and you're sort of screwing one or the other. So we had to navigate that too.
You know, because there was an interesting metric. Matt and I were at an event at USC. It'll be 2 years ago this summer. I think it's 2 years, isn't it, Matt? The sporting event?
Yeah.
And we went online just as a matter of course to see how many people had downloaded the Intel VR Olympics app.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And this was just right after the Olympics. This was like a few months after the Olympics. And the total downloads globally were less than 5,000, according to the Google Play Store. And we couldn't figure out, I mean, how did that miss? What missed so badly there? Nobody at Intel would ever comment on.
Here's the thing. I really think that you know, this is the, you know, the Oculus Quest is the breakout moment for VR, right? All the VR headsets before, you know, for high-res interactive VR, you needed a couple $1,000 computer, a dedicated place in your house. You know, there was all, you know, maybe external cameras or sensors you've mounted. Right. You know, that's a big project. The Quest, you know, pairs with your phone. You can reset the grid lines, you know, super fast, and there's great content now. You know, there really is breakout stuff, and you've seen they can't keep them in stock. And so I think the Quest is, you know, something is going to be, you know, it's finally kind of made this more available. So something like, you know, the Intel event you were talking about, I think today you'd see different numbers.
Sean, thoughts?
Yeah, just more important, I think my thoughts more go that I was I wasn't that big a supporter of VR goggles, headsets, just because I travel a lot culturally. And I could see a big gap in places, China, India, Thailand, where I work a lot, especially in the demographics. There just wasn't, the economics weren't there to support it. And quite frankly, you have a male-female divide that you used to have, that women in those cultures will not wear headsets, both cosmetically, culturally. It just doesn't work over there as well. I would see the lines, it'd be almost all guys, and the women would be standing there kind of frustrated. US, we're a little more balanced, and you can see a little more balanced usage. But now I think with some of the things that Brent just talked on about, it's going to be a more engaging experience. I think people are accepting it more. And frankly, in this new age, it's something you're going to have to adapt to. I think it'll become more socially acceptable. So I think Brent's right. There's going to be a big uptake in it, and Quest has opened a lot of doors. I'm still a fan of community experience. So as soon as you can, what I like about our Wisdome experience, we've got multiple venues, and so you can have a deep dive. If you want to go most solitary VR, you can do that. If you want to have a more of a traditional theater experience, one of our larger domes with live music and dancing, you can do that. So I like the integration of the two, which is something nice that 2-Bit Circus has done. It's a, you know, it's a happy place of integrated people. I went there with my girlfriend and her 4-year-old daughter, and we all had a really good time. And that's really unique about 2-Bit Circus and how they're introducing technology, old school, new school, futurism. So I think the future is bright for all these forms of entertainment.
I want to attack head on a comment that I saw in chat. I'm not going to call out the person, but he says, you're all being too self-promotional. Get to the conversation. And I'm basically, the conversation is about you guys who have the experience right now, because you are Outposts on Risal 7 right now.
Yeah, that's true, Ted. I mean, yes, we can be. We're all making this up as we go along and inventing new things. So, yeah.
You know, guys, the other alternative is we can get McKinsey and Boston Consulting on here to talk about their forecast report, but none of the people that work there have ever done what you guys have done. So,
well, you know, the thing I'd love to talk about is the future, right? When we start to open back up, right? My sense is it's going to be a little bit of the reverse of the way we had to shut down, right? At first, it was like we had to cap at 250 people, then you cap at 50 people. You know, there will be some reverse where you're not going to just open up and let everybody, you know, they'll open movie theaters, maybe seat every other, you know, table at a restaurant. But I'm curious about, you know, the things that will help to restore consumer confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking with one of my friends about, you know, a health department rating, but for sanitation. You know, so how do you have it so that there is a ABC or a green, yellow, red that says, hey, this is a company, third party validated, you know, has said this is, you know, above board, you know, they're going above and beyond when it comes to sanitation. You know, we just happen to have a $35,000 thermal camera from a past project that we turned on in the days leading up to the lockdown and said, okay, if you're coming in here with a fever, you know, staff or guests, you know, we're not gonna let you in.
What's interesting is a year ago, Magic Leap was doing a presentation down in Miami, and before any of this happened, literally a year ago right now, before they would let anybody put a Magic Leap glasses on, they had 2 people cleaning the glasses, cleaning the lenses with literally disinfectant wipes. It wasn't just to clean them for, you know, grease or something. They were making sure that they were passing it on. Who knew how important that would be right now?
Right.
But that confidence level, you're right. How do we get to that? You know, someone put on the chat boards, a guy named Mark Rashba mentioned a radio show that I used to do with a guy named Mike Etchart. We talked about technology early on was the most important element in the adoption of any consumer technology is its WAF, W-A-F. Anyone want to venture a guess what WAF is? Wife acceptance factor. So the question is, when you said about bringing a system into the house and hanging stations up in the eaves and having wires going everywhere, that's where I agree with you that the Quest is great. But how do you get the wife and the kids out to do this as opposed to, you know, I'm going to go do this right now. Sean, you have a meditation part of and a yoga part of Wisdome that people were lined up around the block. I actually gave up. I gave up, even though you let me in. I gave up my space because I was going to have my butt in somebody else's face.
Yeah, good point. I think it's things like that people will be willing to come back first to, at least our audience and crowd. It just feels safer, looks safer. The people that attend those things, it could be inferred that they are a little more conscious and aware and doing all the things you need to do to go out in public. So I guess from our standpoint, it is going to be a little more of that a transformational audience that really help pioneer us, that might help us get back as well. People just take a little more awareness of their environment, who they are. They function in community a little bit better and follow rules, perhaps, although my crowd's not known for follow rules, but in this context, they can. They're an aware crowd. I'll call it the Burning Man crowd. Believe it or not, they're crazy, but they know how to follow the basic rules so that the show can go on. So we might have to appeal to that meditative, transformational crowd. And I think it's going to be pulsing audiences. We're just not going to be able to go for the 400 people packed sellouts that we once wanted. It might have to be multiple shows, smaller crowd, social distancing space, hygiene stations at the gate when you come in, thermometer checks. That may, to start with, that may be what it takes. One thing too, I was on a Fest Forums panel with 50 leading producers from around the world. Everybody from Coachella to Burning Man guys were on this panel last week, and there's just some new techniques. RFID wristbands, low human interaction. Unfortunately, it may come down to a wristband. You scan it when you come in. You scan it to get your drink. There's no handling of money. There's no handling of anything. You reach into a vending machine, get your drink. The bartender stands there and monitors. It might come down to things like that, at least in the beginning, that some technology that's been bubbling under may become the prominent technology now. Somehow amidst all this, we got to keep the human element going, because that's really the key. If it just becomes sterile, interactive, and that it may work, but it won't be sustainable long-term, I don't think.
I have a friend of mine, Vince Bannon, who will reject that idea because he likes wearing 30 different backstage passes.
Yeah, hope it'll be one, though, Ted. I think it'll be one master pass, and it's going to have a chip in it, and it'll do everything. Everything you need it to do, it does. You have.
Well, I know. I've been working with that for years, but the resistance is you don't have 15 laminates around your neck.
That's true.
Saying that I'm here with Dave Matthews.
We'll give you a sticker patch. It'll be all right, or a necklace, keychain, something.
Right.
Yeah, but there's some innovation there on the technical side. There's going to be some innovation that's going to help people move more confidently through venues and lower human interaction for the short term. At least it's going to be about that, I'm afraid. Yeah.
I think also from
wait, let Brent go for one second.
Please.
I was just going to say, from my perspective, if you haven't been into a VR dome or a 360 dome, you obviously don't need a headset.
Right.
So it's something that you do need to see. That's spectacular, and there's a large range of short and long movies you can watch outside of the live events that happen there, because we've been doing an international expo and business summit based around AR VR, and we have a one-day open day for the public. And outside of most of the things, the biggest lines have been the domes that we've set up.
Right.
But outside of what Brent's doing with the Hologate technology, the shoot 'em up games, I'm sure that's one of your most popular games in house as well. When I went down to visit, it was always packed, and you got 2 or 3 of them there.
I love that.
And I think this experience economy is going to be booming. I mean, in the last 12 months, it has taken off, particularly in the US. I mean, Sean, you've just launched a year ago, 18 months ago.
Yep.
You've got Meow Wolf, which is somewhat different.
Yeah, but I think for me, the nut of this conversation is not whether experiential is here to stay. I think that is for sure. The question is, how does it, what is the path to recovery? So, when the lockdown is finished, there's going to be one set of people who just couldn't care less, and they're chomping at the bit, and they can't wait to get out, and they think, that this is an overreaction. For everybody, and maybe that is a kind of relatively small subset. For everybody else, how do we get them to be comfortable again? And for me, there's real privacy considerations here, because you could make a path. You could say a path that's, well, we're only letting people in that have the contact tracing app installed on their phone, and we're going to make sure that you haven't been in any hotspots in the last 14 days. That's one super extreme. But if you were on the, if you were borderline, concerned about germs going into this, you're going to be, at 11 coming out of it.
So let me ask you this for 1 second. When I first moved to LA, I was very impressed. I went to Universal Studios for the first time, and the buy-in line at the time was buy a day, get a year. Then they've moved away from that in a lot of cases. They still have, California local passes, but they're more expensive than a single day. From a financial model, how do you create repeat business on a local level so that I'm not paying whatever it is each time? I mean, is there I'll sign up for a year and I'll pay $30 a month and I can come whenever I want. Do you have a class pass for 2-Bit Circus?
Yeah, so I like, one of the things that I love where you're going there is, social distancing is about both space and time. right? And for me, I've seen with this whole, this whole lockdown, what does Saturday mean anymore, right? What does Sunday mean anymore, right? Really, it's about being able to take some time for yourself and then going back to work. And if you take your Saturday on Monday, you're less likely to run into the people who are going to be out there on a Saturday. And so, I think to your ClassPass point, is there some way that we could say, hey, capacity for location-based entertainment around LA, if you want to be able to do a thing, you're going to have a much better likelihood on this Monday or Tuesday, or here's a way to be able to get access at an off hour where you're assured you have control of the place, or, that there's nobody else that's going to be there, or something like, I would love to be able to land at that.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a different generation now. When I first got into the music business, and I was being mentored by local music industry people, it literally was like out of Sopranos. It was going to a strip club for lunch. I'd much rather go to 2-Bit Circus or Wisdome. As far as technology, what have you found? What do you see coming next? As we're in this period of experimentation, and we can take a breath and look at what people are doing that is starting to be, even more cutting edge than what's currently available. What are you seeing that you want to play with next?
I was just going to say, I can start on that. One of the new projects that I've seen that's been in development for the last 1 to 2 years, actually Vegas is leading the way in a couple of areas here. One's called Area 15, which is a new marketplace for shopping, but also for live events as well. It's a black box. You can check it out online. But that's they're looking at changing the way people shop and interact in a mall type of futuristic environment. The other one is what Madison Square Garden has been building for a while, called the Sphere in Vegas. I believe they started out on a $250 million budget, which could anywhere be in between that and $1 billion. But that is a football stadium LED wall experience for, I think it's 10 or 20,000 people.
18,000, roughly 18,000, yeah.
So that, I'm not sure, Sean, I think we were talking about that the other day, but it's probably about a year or two out. But that's their future of entertainment.
They didn't call us.
Yeah. So there's a couple of examples there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll chime in a couple. What I think is going to be exciting opportunity for us is that we can do large-scale productions with small audiences in a dome that really focus on this live event, this mixture of reality and surrealism, where we can have artists perform in a dome with the surrounding, 360 VR visuals. We were talking today with some guys who are inventing amazing audio capabilities where we can have spatial audio mixes going on. And from what I've seen, the streamcasting concerts is interesting, but right now it's some guys at home playing in their shorts primarily, just for themselves and for their fans. I'm sure that's going to be up, and people are going to be looking to sound stages, venues where they can actually do concerts that are streamed. In my view, I think a dome environment and this creative location-based environment experience is going to be great for that type of thing, where we can broadcast out to the whole world a really unique show that has a visual, audio, and live performance component that mixes some of the capabilities of all the technology out there to create a really interesting viewing experience for a fan, not just a band on a stage somewhere. So I think that's going to be an exciting development.
Hey guys, it looks like we lost Ted. I know his connection was kind of going in and out, so I thought I'd just jump in here. And Laura, let's go ahead and put up the poll. We have some great poll questions, kind of get the audience here, gets their thoughts on what they're seeing and out there in the location-based entertainment world. And then let's take some questions. So let's see. Michael Holton asks, don't we need a redesign of current AR, VR equipment to handle continual cleaning that will be necessary in this new environment of people fearing viruses and germs? Folks, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a good question, and you know, I think of it sort of two parts. One is around, you know, guest awareness, and I think the second that you are aware of cleanliness, you know, you take care of yourself. I mean, think of a toilet seat with a you know, with a little paper you can pull over it. I think giving people the tools to be able to you know, be in control of their own cleanliness is super important. Whether, you know, various sanitizing stations. There's some great UV tech out there. Clean Box, you know, very visibly you put it in, you put the headset in, and it, you know, kills germs. And then, you know, there's some with removable face plates that you can also do. So I think there's definitely some nice experimentation. This was already a challenge before, you know, COVID. So I think we're definitely going to see people, you know, where maybe in the past people wanted that to be kind of invisible. I think we're going to see that go front and center.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's bring your own headset at the moment, isn't it? And the only health thing I've seen as well, Brent, you were saying, is the insert that goes across your face, and then you put the headset over it, and it's a throwaway 20-cent, you know, mask that goes under the headset, and that's what.
You know, interestingly, there's really two versions of that. The throwaway you're talking about, there's some other ones where they literally have a unit that's you know, on the venue side, and it separates, and you'll go and you'll clean those, you know, like you would 3D glasses.
Replace them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just offer that I like the dome environment, and I like 2-bit Circus. I think these type of environments where the availability to use the traditional VR and things that you have to wear gear is cool, but you know, I like the dome environment. We'll be able to adapt a lot of the experiences you have in VR. You'll be able to do it in a controlled environment. We can, you know, be hygienically safe. We can have a fair amount of social distancing, and you still get all the effect. And I think the wow power of some of the new innovations we're bringing in the dome. So hopefully this tragic event will lead us to, you know, build better community experiences. So that's what I'm hoping happens. And I think we're positioned pretty well to do that.
Ted is back. Ted,
I'm sorry about that, everybody. We had a little power blink in the building here.
Not a problem. We launched the poll, Ted, and we are down to Rosemary's question. So if you want to take it back, I could.
I got a question. Okay.
Yep.
Let's see.
About midway,
Ted. Chris's question?
We haven't answered Rosemary's yet. So if you want to take it from there, that would be great.
If you like, Ted, I can read it out. The new paradigm. How do artists, content creators choose the best platform to launch a new product, album, or tour? Is it VR, AR, mobile, Quibi as an example, streaming, or all of the above? And how does that impact budget and planning?
Good question.
I know what I would probably start off with is streaming. That is the #1 easiest way, obviously, to get your music or product out there on any of the platforms. VR and AR, there's been a lot of different projects in the music space, if we're talking music, connecting with fans, but it's not the cheapest way, of course. A 360 video is the most cost-effective way of shooting behind-the-scenes footage for a shoot or an interview-style location. I'm not sure what the process is of getting your content up on Quibi. One of you guys might know that because it's so new. But there's some initial thoughts for me.
Yeah, I like what Matt said. I think shooting stuff at the highest platform, 360 VR capable, and then using standard, you know, YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, all of that. But really encouraging the artists and clients I work with to think, don't box yourself in. So look down the field, think 360 VR, and actually something that could be adapted into a traditional VR, AR environment, but could also play in a theater, a dome, on a mobile phone. So I think just have the 360 video visual may be the best simple thing to start with. I think that'll become mandatory for all new releases that want mainstream appeal, probably.
Alicia,
and also put out there that it really depends on where the audience is for the content, right? If you've got an artist making, for a more gamer audience, you should be streaming on Twitch. If you've got it for a kids audience, YouTube's got some great tools. I think it really depends on the audience for your solution.
Yep.
So Alicia Yaffe had a question. It was good. Do you think this pandemic will cause tools to be developed that will make it easier to program AR and VR experiences, sort of like a Squarespace or WordPress for VR and AR for people?
I mean, a lot of those tools do exist. You know, there's Amazon's got something called I think Lumberyard. You know, obviously there's Unity and Unreal. You know, and then for stuff that where you know no coding necessary, you know, Altspace and you know, there's some other, you know, multiplayer worlds that allow you to sort of build like you're building inside of Minecraft.
Oh, cool. What other questions do you see here? My question window went away. Please forgive me, everybody. I actually do know what I'm doing, but.
Could I address one, Ted? There's an interesting one here from Michael Holton. For the next year, will people prefer outdoor LBE, location-based experience versus indoor due to the better airflow, more social distancing outside? What new creative, interactive outdoor experiences have you seen or are developing? I think it's a great question. I just started, you know, I come from a traditional outdoor festival background. I was on a panel last week with the guy, like I said, Coachella and Bonnaroo and all these people on a call. What are they going to do and how are they going to adapt? Where their main thing is getting as many people crammed into a tight quarters as possible. So I think there could be an interesting melding of these cultures of AR, VR, AI, live experiences. Before, those experiences at festivals didn't really work for me because there was such a low throughput. You could only get a few dozen people at best. Now it may become mandatory. So there might be an interesting merger of location-based experiences that would traditionally be indoor conferences and trade show, an outdoor festival, some type of audience pulsing going on where you can actually take time to have this AR, VR experience, a dome, whatever it might be, into a more traditional concert where segregation and spacing is going to have to be important. So it could be exciting developments there with the integration of these two worlds that used to be slightly separate or awkwardly put together. Yeah.
I think one of the challenges is Matt put on a conference in Auckland, New Zealand 2 years ago, Magnify World. And the folks who were there, I almost got in trouble. The folks who were there from Air New Zealand, and they were using HoloLens to demonstrate how a flight attendant would come up to you with a HoloLens on and ask you what you wanted for lunch. And I loved everything. This was the most over-the-top, intimidating experience in terms of it was like having LeVar Burton stand over you in Star Trek, you know, with the visor on. And sometimes I think the biggest challenge is to avoid being as clever as we think everybody else wants us to be, and being, you know, playing to the mainstream instead of playing to, you know, being the coolest kid on the block. Agree, disagree?
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's a good point.
Another question here. How are LB venue and content producers collaborating with game publishers and esports organizers to enhance the experience?
Matt, you want to take that one since you're on the cutting edge of those kind of negotiations?
Sorry, where was this one? I was scrolling down there.
Yeah, I could take that. You know, I mean, for me, the thing that this lockdown has brought is a, you know, really a comfort with video conferencing and interacting over video. And so, for, you know, my hope is that you know, with that comfort, folks are going to be willing to engage. You know, for the few folks that are willing to go out and go live, okay, great, they're going to get the highest immersive version of the experience. And then, you know, other folks will be down to engage from remote. So maybe you could still have a, you know, game night with your family, and half of them are out live and half of them are at home, because now they've sort of habituated to what, you know, that remote interaction looks like.
Yeah, that is a good question, because the whole of the sports industry has been cancelled until further notice.
Further notice, right?
And may come back next year, including the Olympics, of course. And esports, every major sports league in the world is now putting on their own live Twitch events or wherever they're streaming it. Part of those new engagement experiences are, you know, just adding simple things like we're doing today as a poll, and trivia and, you know, prediction technology. There's a company called Play Tally that does predictions for entertainment and esports, for example. But yeah, that's esports is going to keep on growing and exploding from here, I think.
Yeah. And Matt, for me, a big question there is, how do you recreate the wonderful human social part that comes with these, these events traditionally?
Yeah.
Is that, one of the reasons we go and do this stuff, the reason you go out to the game, the reason you go out to dinner, here's common ground that you can get together with your family and friends. What's going to be the right ways to retool those experiences such that you still capture that social, driver, but doesn't necessarily need everybody be in the same room?
Right.
You're right.
I'm working with currently, to put a small plug in, it's called Virtuoso. They're providing a virtual concert experience. These are all good. I mean, it still never beats the real experience, but you can augment them. We're coming down to the wire here. I'm leaning on Ned to tell us where we are in terms of taking us to the
let's put up the poll, Laura,
yes.
and if you guys could all stay on with me here, I'd love to get your reactions to some of the responses here. All right, do you own a VR system? 76% of the people do not. I don't think that's so surprising. I mean, that's Brent. What is that? How does that compare to kind of the population at large?
It's a good question. I'm not sure what those numbers are lately. I know they've sold millions of the Quest, and so that's the one that they haven't been able to keep in stock. I'd love to see this poll in 6 months.
Yeah, actually, I've just got some latest stats on that. It's actually 8%.
8%. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So this is actually a higher adopter group than the public population at large. Yeah, which isn't
anybody who doesn't have an Oculus Quest, buy one tomorrow if you like fun.
buy it tomorrow because I'm going to get mine today. Get in line behind me.
All right, we're gonna rifle through these last ones because we've got to be out at 12:50. So the barrier has been range of experiences, number 1, price, number 2, technology not good enough, 3rd. Have you been to a location-based venue? I think this is a bad question, honestly, because, I mean, at least I take location-based entertainment to mean like any sporting event, a movie theater, and it seems like this is kind of probably more focused on VR experiences, which is only one kind of lane. I would say probably every location-based venue. Yeah. But 75% said yes. What would be your first choice post-COVID-19 to attend? This is an interesting question. Yeah. Number 1 response came in at movie theaters or museums. Number 2, music or concert venue. And number 3, outdoor festival or fair. What do you guys think? That kind of resonate?
Yeah, it looks challenging for Universal and Disney. They got some work to do. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I might have voted. I think I did vote that same way. I'd maybe push location-based entertainment. I like the curated venue part because I think people will be looked after. But otherwise, I think it makes sense to me that people.
Right. For me, when I look at those numbers, it intuitively feels like the stuff where some amount of social distancing is going to be able to be enforced. A movie theater, if you seat every 3rd seat, there's your 6 feet, and you could buy a ticket online and never interact with a staffer, but you've still got that big immersive experience. So I think that, an outdoor festival, I know Michael had mentioned that, things that allow you to be able to have some control over your social distancing, I think are going to be the easiest.
Right. Okay, the last two questions relate to how people are spending, what they were doing previously and what they might do now. What would you spend in an average month on an LBE experience? 45% said it's under $100. Only 5% are over $500. And then 28% between 100 and 500. 22% they don't spend anything on LBEs. This is kind of related to the last question, which is how likely are you to pay a premium price for a movie that's being released digitally in lieu of a theatrical release?
That answer is really surprising because I've always said I'd be willing to pay a premium to watch it at home. I know we're at the finish line here. This one's very counterintuitive. We've had a great time. Ned, you want to close us out?
Yeah, let me close us out, guys. So first off, thanks, Sean, Matt, Brent, Ted. You guys were a great panel. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe and healthy. We'll be back on Monday with our Business of Streaming show. We have a great guest, Morgan Kruger, who is COO of MWM Universes, will be on the show with us, with our host, Colin Dixon of Endscreen Media. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.